Hello everyone and welcome to the Kima Labs podcast, where we talk about trends, technology and the future of the electrical industry. Today we are not talking about innovation. We are talking about our number one priority, safety. Our guest, Jason Brosen, knows what happens when safety takes a backseat. His message is simple: don't be me. It's a warning for every electrician, and it applies just as much to transformer, switchgears and electrical equipment that hit the market with proper validation. At Kima Labs, we test to failure, so we never have them in the field. So thank you very much, Jason, for being here with us. Before we dive into our discussion, could you briefly share your story, the incident that changed your life forever, and how you became a safety advocate in this topic?
And first, I want to say thank you to you guys. Anytime I get a chance to get my story out, I believe it helps other people stay safe out there. We've got a great relationship with Kima. We do arc flash presentations and demonstrations at least once or twice a year through our company, Tyndale. And Scott Margolin has had a relationship with you guys for quite a while. So we do that out in Philadelphia, and the facility has been nothing but the facility has been nothing but professional and welcoming to us. And Frank Cielo out there has been a joy to work with. So thank you so much for that and bringing awareness to the industry in that aspect, because it's a very unusual way to do that. So my story is just about the same as any other electrician out there. I get a task, and I've been in the field about 10 years. And really at that point, just think I know everything and pretty cocky and arrogant and smarter than the hazards, of course. And this was back in 2009. So there wasn't a lot of awareness going on out there. It was just kind of starting to peak and get some traction around 2004. And so, my task that day was to install a breaker and a piece of 2,500 amp switchgear, right? And this was 12208, which squashes that misconception that you can have a sustained arc at that low voltage level. That's why OSHA just came out with that new guidance out here, because low voltage doesn't mean low danger, of course. So just making some foolish decisions based on complacency, and that affects everybody out there. Doesn't matter if you're a panel builder, a panel tester, or a panel installer, or a sheet rocker or a painter or whatever. So just doing some dangerous things, working energized without PPE, not justified work, of course, cutting some tape off of the energized bus bars to get a breaker installed, which I got through that process. And then I needed to get that breaker installed into that space and that piece of gear. And the bus bars, the fingers were out of alignment, and I could not get the breaker installed. So I needed to spread those fingers a little bit. I know there's some play in those, even if they're torqued properly. And so I stuck a fuse puller in there, and I didn't realize there was a metal rivet inside that tool, and created that arc flash. And the result of that was 2 weeks in the ICU burn unit, about 7 months off work, 5 months of intense hand therapy to get my hands working again. And, years of trying to get back to where I was, and never could quite get back there, but close, 95%. So that's a brief rundown of what happened.
Thank you, Jason. So your story shows how dangerous complacency can be. At Kima Labs, we see similar problems, to be honest, when equipment isn't tested properly or standards are ignored. So, do you think the attitude shift you encourage for electricians could be applicable to manufacturers and utility to prevent equipment failures?
Yeah, 100%. Like I briefly mentioned in that first question, that complacency affects everybody, right? The the builder, the panel builder or the gear builder doesn't really see the end product being installed in the QA QC team energizing it, right? It's the whole forest and the trees principle. So, a panel builder, may rush through some processes because they don't understand the ramifications at the very end when you finally energize that piece of equipment. And I mean, as you know, testing to destruction, if something isn't correct, I mean, you can have a catastrophic failure instantly as soon as you energize that. So the testing, the following procedures, et cetera, are all extremely important, whether you're building panels, whether you're testing panels, whether you're installing or QA, QCing those, with the energization team. And there's a lot of those standards, right? I mean, here we've got the NFPA 70, 70B, 70, and 79 for that type of stuff. And then, of course, you have the UL and IEC and CSA. And there's really a lot to take in there and a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross. And if even one of those are sidestepped, of course, you can have some catastrophic failures. And obviously with that catastrophic failure, can come serious injury or death, with shock or arc flash.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason, for your point. Well, what we see nowadays in the US, but especially in the rest of the world, is that electrical industry is constant under pressure to deliver faster and cheaper. And we see that urgency impacting product qualification decisions, ending up to potential unexpected failures. So, what your professional insights on potential risk associated with prioritizing speed when thinking to field installations are in this respect?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's probably been the question that has been asked for generations, right? It's always about being bigger, faster, better, making more money, being more profitable. It's, for me, it's a frustrating question because, of course, I mean, rushing with anything can cause an accident. Rushing to the airport can cause a car accident. Rushing, through production or rushing through energization or the QA QC side of things. Um, you know, those teams need to follow procedures, right? And sometimes that's tough, right? Because you've got pressure from a general contractor. It's costing you, thousands of dollars a day because you haven't energized this equipment yet. And there's always that pressure. For me, money is never more important than human life, right? And I just think there's steps that you can't miss. Doing your visual inspections, doing your, wired, whether it's megging, whether it's, destructive testing. There's things that have to happen. And at some point, we just need to say, you know what? It takes what it takes to get it done, or we're not going to do it. After my arc flash accident, there's a lot of jobs that we turned down because they wanted to do it energized or do it quicker or do whatever. And the risk assessments, we couldn't satisfy that. And so at some point, we just need to say, hey, look, we're going to slow down. We're going to do this right. Human life is going to cost way more in the long run. And of course, getting equipment, there for quite a while, it's, it might be a couple of years before you can get something. So if you blow a piece of gear up, you're in real trouble long term for cost, cost wise.
Well said, Jason. I would say if you had a message for decision makers, manufacturers, utilities, all the stakeholders involved about balancing speed, cost, and safety in today's pressured environment, what would that be?
So that's a great question too. I think it kind of ties with what I said in the last question, is that at some point, everybody's going to have to decide together that money is not more important than human life. I mean, plain and simple. I could tell you just with experience with you guys, I mean, you jump through all the hoops and you do it right, right? I mean, the testing portion of it, very technical, lots of I's to dot, T's to cross. But I've seen on the manufacturing side some flaws, definitely seen some flaws. And then on the installation side, definitely seen some flaws. So we've just got to decide that things need to be right. Um, stuff being tested. The product is important, of course, but the other stuff that goes along with it, like auditing, like training, providing PPE to the employees out there doing this work, making sure that risk assessments are being followed, energized electrical work permits, those kind of things that all are in the 70E, are very, very important. So as far as manufacturers, you know, uh, doing your QA, QC stuff in the beginning, root cause problem solving, finding out, supply chain issues, finding out what those problems are, those can be handled. The testing labs, I think, have done really well. Everything I've seen, that you guys have done has been really jam up. But balancing that speed, cost, and safety I think, is always going to be a challenge for, those general contractors and contractors out there that are actually installing the product. So just slowing down and doing some of those safety steps are really going to decrease those injuries.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. So Jason's story reminds us that safety is never given, but it's a decision. So his message, "Don't be me," is really powerful. It speaks to every electrician in the field, but I kind of felt that this could also speak for equipment, for switchgears, for transformer, for every piece of infrastructure that nowadays we install into a substation and that is operating close to sometimes human lives that are there to perform operations actions, are performing maintenance, performing installations. So it is absolutely critical not only to pay attention to what you're doing, but also to be close to safe equipment, because you are relying on the safety of the equipment which is there. You need to equip yourself with the proper PPE. You need to equip yourself with and follow all the procedures, but you need to trust the equipment you have in front of you. Sometimes you should even not trust too much anyway, because too much trust maybe can provide some increased danger, but it should be taken for granted that the transformer you have in front of you, the low voltage switch gear panel you have in front of you, the transformer, the cable duct that you have there is safely designed, is safe by design. And this is what we try to accomplish at Chemalabs, supporting our clients with testing campaigns according to standards or according to special requirements. But again, thank you very much, Jason, for bringing this perspective. I think we share ultimately the same goal and the same value. So it has been really a pleasure for me having you here at our podcast. So thank you very much. And I encourage all of the people that will look to this podcast to stay tuned for the next episodes of the Chemalabs podcast to get more insights on further topics. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you for having me.